Try not to make it too cheesy.
Well, we already know that's not going to work. The cheese is coming.
The cheese is coming.
Guilty.
You're listening to The Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. How are you doing, everyone? This is your co-host, Nathan Nowak, along with Patrick and KJ. How are you guys doing on this lovely recording night?
Hello. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on our show.
Thanks for coming.
I'm doing all right. I picked up. We're recording at a new time. Nobody cares, but we're recording at a new time. And I normally, as soon as work gets done, I basically sprint out of my house just to start moving because I haven't moved much. And today I decided to work late, and that was a bad decision. So
you rushed home. I saw that your text. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm just feeling I haven't moved much today vibes. So my step count is probably under 3,000.
I got to check mine. I had an opposite day, actually. I had some stuff I was working on, but I had one call that I took and I walked around outside because it was nice out. And I walked for 40 minutes worth of the call. So I'm hoping that equals to 2 miles because I feel like I generally walk a mile every 20 minutes. But that felt nice. And then I took another walk to get not healthy food. But I walked there and I walked back.
That offsets a little.
The steps,
yeah.
The
steps,
sure.
I think. I don't know. Probably not, but it's fine. But other than that, it's been an okay day. How are you doing, Nathan?
I'm doing great. It's finally starting to warm up, although today was a little chilly this morning and windy. But you can see on the horizon of the temperatures that they're starting to go back up, and it's right around it's going to get to my perfect temperatures in the 60s. I love the 60s.
The 60s are your perfect temperature.
Yeah,
oh
60s,
my
interesting.
To low 70s. Those are my things. It starts getting too hot. I hate it. Yeah, it's too cold. Of course, yeah, I hate that too. But so yeah,
he doesn't just like it. He hates it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's vehement.
The number one thing I could never, no offense to people living in Arizona, but I could never live in Arizona because of the heat.
It's a dry heat.
It doesn't matter.
It's nice. I like Arizona. I liked Arizona after going there. I also said the same thing that I'd never lived there, but now I'm like,
no,
I mean, you
like
were really in a desert space though, right?
Desert space, yeah.
You flew into Phoenix and then drove immediately north, so you were back
yeah.
out of the desert kind of. So.
No, it's definitely more into the desert. Out of the desert, into the desert, through the snowy forest. It was weird. It was you get everything.
I was going to say, from Phoenix to Flagstaff is how is it even in the same state?
It's wild. It's coming up. Honestly, we went to the Wupatki National Monument, which is an indigenous land, and it's untouched by society except for the small welcome center and stuff. And driving out of some of those hills and seeing out, and it's literally you're driving on the surface of Tatooine or something. It is it was wild to me to see that, and I'm just it felt like we were on another planet.
Yeah, actually, West Arizona and Eastern California is not that far from where they filmed Tatooine.
I mean, I wouldn't surprise me. I felt like
the second time
a desolate place of a hive of scum and villainy. Even though that's Mos Eisley specifically.
No, the Jabba's palace section was filmed in the desert area. Yeah, not a Mos Eisley. That was filmed way over in West Asia.
Yeah.
Well, I have nothing problem with the scenery, the food, the people, the activities. It's just the heat. It just gets so hot there for me, and I sweat so easily, and I hate sweating.
Wow, way to
I mean, if it's cold, I can put on more clothes, but when it's too hot, I mean. Only so many.
So is your threshold 60 to 69, or is it you can breach into the 70s, you can get down into the 50s, or you're 62 to 68? You're in a tight range.
A fairly large range. I'm going to say, let's go.
It's about 64 to 64.
62 to 75. I'd say
62 to 75. All right, the ceiling is raised a bit. Okay. So. That's fun.
This is the most dad level conversation / intro I think we've ever had.
That is that commercial where is that a progressive commercial or something? We're turning into our parents, That guy, he's just like, no, stop. He's just like,
Well, when I was watching the Weather Channel, I saw no.
I like the one where the guy's turned around facing everybody in the elevator. He's like, see how everyone else is standing? He's like, I'm like, that's what my dad would do. Just face people in the elevator and talk to them uncomfortably.
How is your
I wouldn't
body
talk to them.
temperatures? Like mine's always been low. Like I want to say mine's a degree. Like, it's not 98.6. I say mine's like 97.3, 97.4. Do you guys have any opinion on that?
I don't. I feel like I run hot because I sweat super easily, and like I don't know, just like it makes like I feel like I get hot really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I like it to be cooler in the places that I inhabit. So yeah, I don't know, but I have not done the science to measure my temperatures and
Your
know that like I run at like
Okay.
98.2 or something.
Well,
Same.
Well, I didn't know. I didn't know if it was, just a me thing. Maybe it's a,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like it's a you thing.
It
Let us
sounds
know.
like it's a
let us
you
know in the
thing.
comments
It's
of
a
the
me
socials,
thing. Does anyone
or
else
send
have
us an email, or leave us a voicemail, and let us know
just call in
your
and be
body,
like, yeah, I
your
run hot.
temperatures. Yeah, I run hot.
No other context.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so today what we're doing, so far, before we get too far, we should also, for our new listeners, explain what Janchi Show means.
That's true. You should explain what Janchi Show means.
And I think
or what actually what Janchi means.
Yeah.
The show, I think, is pretty self-explanatory.
That's true. We are a show about the Janchis.
So we call ourselves the Janchi Show because Janchi in Korean means to feast. And we, in addition to feasting on the show, which we do at the end of every episode, generally, we celebrate our shared heritage as in culture and identities and community as Korean American adoptees. And sometimes we do that with other people, aka guests, and sometimes we do that by ourselves, aka by ourselves. And that's what this episode is today. I don't know if that was a good explanation, but I feel like it was pretty good.
Yeah,
Good explanation of by ourselves. Yes.
Give you like a B+.
B+. That's pretty good. I'll take it. All right. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, today, well, I had some things that I had heard in my life that I think are interesting and stirred up some things in me. The first of which was this comment. So I was listening to this podcast called Straight White American Jesus, and I think I've mentioned it on the show, but they specifically had a guest on who was talking about, amongst other things, being part of the queer community whilst also being in Christian spaces generally. And okay, here we go. So this is specifically, this was the writer, director, and comedian Holly Laurent, who is a creator of a podcast, Mega, about a satirical mega church. Just kind of like interview her. It's really funny, and Holly is really intelligent too. And yeah, so it's just a good conversation if you guys want to listen to it. Straight White American Jesus. But in that, I heard one of the hosts or whatever, say what we focus on determines what we miss. And I just thought that was really interesting. I think it's, not wholly dissimilar from like missing the forest for the trees kind of thing. But I've thought it was so interesting because here we have our own podcast where we talk about Koreanness or adoption, sometimes gender, sometimes religion, those kinds of things. And I just remember, on the wake of thinking back to the beginning of our stories and how the show came to be, I just remember there being a lot of adoption talk, a lot of Asian American talk, whatever. Do you think that we can do that too much? Do you think that they're like that, like, while for many of us who are in kind of this current wave of awakening and learning how to walk, like, do you think that we can focus on those things too much? Do we think that we need to take a step back, or is the amount that we're doing it good and right? And yeah, obviously a very personal question, but I'm just curious to hear your takes.
I guess I'm a little bit confused on what we're focusing too much on.
Well,
I think I need a little clarification.
Yeah, so I think about like how once I met all these new people, like I said in the last episode, all the new community, whatever, then it was like, well, my whole feed is like Asian Americanness or adoptionness or whatever, certain thingsness or ism or whatever. But like, do you feel like you have spent too much time, an appropriate amount of time, whatever, in those spaces versus like, have you taken time to like zoom back out and think about other things?
I understand now.
And specifically over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Been doing the podcast.
Yeah. Just because like that's such a massive shift, and like to Patrick's point, like he ran full steam 110 miles an hour into it,
Yeah, for sure. I think that I was for a while far too narrowly focused, even up until I think like I hit that acceptance phase in May 2022, so just last year. Like at first it was very Korean American focused, and like it was like the only thing I'm looking at. And then it was like I learn about adoptee stuff, and I'm like, oh, and that starts to creep in, and then all of a sudden it's only the adoptee stuff. And so like that's all I'm thinking about and talking about for a really long time. And then like Atlanta happens and it kind of shifts back to Asian stuff, but now it's like it got a social justice bent. And so like I'm taking in a lot of that kind of content, literature, information. Like I'm really focused on that. And then it was like, I feel like in May, like that was when I took that step back. Like once I had a more full understanding of myself and like found that acceptance, I think I was able to take that step back and be like, okay, I've been really like hands in the bucket, like you said, too much, too specific for too long now. And I think it's time to try and be more, not all encompassing, but be more, just have a wider range of what I'm trying to, like things that I'm intaking, content that I'm intaking, books I'm reading, what podcasts I'm listening to, whatever it might be. So I think I needed to at first kind of overindulge in certain specific things because I was learning so much and so new to the spaces. But now I think with 3 years of work put in, I say that now and it's like, that feels like not very much. And I'm like, okay, maybe I need to do a lot more still, but I feel like I'm like, okay, I have I'm able to take the step back more when I feel like I'm maybe overindulging too much again. So, and being more mindful of taking in more and different perspectives, especially from an Asian American sense, because there's so many different groups of people that make up Asian America. And it's really easy to focus on just the Korean aspect or just the East Asian aspect. And that's not just like a me thing. That's culture in general, or society and pop culture in general, how we've always talked about it. So,
yeah. How would you say your time management has been as well? Because I know for, the last couple of years, we've had a couple moments, a couple episodes where we've talked about being just really so involved in so many things that it was causing, stress and stuff like that. How do you feel that is right now?
Oh, I feel like a lot better. I feel like I've gotten a lot better at saying no. I think especially now that a lot of my work, I am trying to be like paid for the work that I'm doing. I think that takes precedence, priority, because I don't have a full-time job specifically where I have that fixed income. Like my income is based on the stuff I'm doing for either this show or my other show, or the speaking opportunities that I'm doing, or the types of the work that I'm trying to do in that space. And so I feel like a lot of my time is spent now focused on those things, developing those things to the point where I am able to be like, especially from a community aspect, like really be pick and choose the spots where I can show up, because I'm like, okay, I have capacity to do this, or I can take this extra call or sit on and do like a consulting thing for somebody, an organization or something like that, and feel like I'm not overextending now. So I feel like I'm in a much, much better place than I was before. Because I do remember those times where I'm like, this fucking sucks. I'm so overwhelmed and everything is terrible.
I was going to say, I know you're still doing a lot, because I know you went to, your speaking event, your moderating event, I guess, and other things. But I feel like you just seem more calm, more, less stressed, more focused, I think, now. And so I'm not really sure when that happened, but I have noticed that has happened.
I appreciate it. And I could talk about the specific times. I don't know if I'm ready to specifically talk about when I found that calm, because I think it is mixed in with a lot of other things right now that I'm still processing and unpacking. But I did have a period of like a few week period where I found that phase, found that calmness, and was like, all right, here I go. Like I was like, I got out of the chaos that I feel like had been happening. And from multiple areas of my life, and like found this kind of, wasn't peace, but it was like motivation to be like, okay, I'm ready to tackle these things on my own, because I feel like I've learned everything that I've been learning over these last few years, everything that I've been doing, the conversations I've been having, the relationships that I've been building has been leading to this moment. And I felt like, okay, this is the moment. And that gave me a lot of calm, even though it's like I'm dealing with a lot of uncertainty, a lot of like, I don't know where the next check is coming from. I feel like I know, but I don't know yet until it gets deposited in my bank account or arrives in the mailbox. You know what I mean? So it's like all the work that I'm putting in is speculative, income at the moment. And so, but I mean, but it's work I love to do. Like, I'm really enjoying the things that I'm working on. And like, that makes a huge difference. And I feel like I have built the structure into all these things that I'm doing to know that I'm giving myself the appropriate amount of time to do all of those, and also take time to myself, make sure I can hang out with my wife, still go play basketball, all of that stuff.
That's great. To answer your question, KJ, I'm going to relate it to my past experience as a wedding photographer. There's many times when, right before a wedding, I'd get like lists sometimes by brides, and they would say, can you make sure to get this? There was like a list of things that I had to focus on to get. And, I usually found ways of kindly responding, saying that I don't work off lists. I'll look at the list and I'll try to remember, certain things to get if they're really important, but I don't need a list of every single shot that I'm going to be taking, because if you're focused on those, you're going to miss other things that you may need to be doing, or something that is that is unforeseen, or a spur of the moment emotion, or something that's happening, or something that they didn't plan on. And if I'm focusing on these other things, I can miss that. So for my life, I think I've always been pretty much focused on what I know, just based off experience, and what I know I can handle. And so I try to go with that route. I try not to go too much on one side or the other. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of doing that. People used to call me, like, my middle name was, moderation. And I was never too extreme on one side. I wasn't ever too, lazy, or too, busy where I was, pulling my hair out. And so I've always been right in the middle of doing things and focusing on what I think I need to be focused on. That focus, of course, changes, based off of different things as you're going through life, based off experience. You're like, okay, maybe I should be doing this and less of that, and of course I say this, standing here talking on a podcast, and behind me there's a million Lego, but I don't feel like my time is too much on one thing. And same thing with adoption. I feel like I've gone into communities, I've gone into discussions, I've talked to people, gone to events, but I haven't done too much. ICA's coming up, but it's right after Con. I know I can't go to both. If I was really wanting to try and push and go to both, that would probably stress me out. It would probably take away from my family and things like that.
I feel attacked.
But if you have the time, then that's great. I don't have the time to do that. I don't have the resources.
I don't have any kids.
To be gone for 2 weeks. And so, but I made that decision, as much as I wanted to go to Korea, especially since I know that ICA is only every 3 years. Now I'm gonna have to wait 3 years before considering going to the next one. So, but yeah.
Do you ever feel like you should push and pull like a Patrick for anything, and like just go like super hard and like make it like? Do you feel like your moderation holds you back, or like, I don't know? Do you like suffer from FOMO because you're like, oh man, if I pushed just a little bit more, maybe I could have done? Or are you like, no, I'm good where I'm at?
No, I'm pretty good where I'm at. I know that I have gone. I'm not on adoption related things, but I know I've gone to points when I had less responsibilities, where I was doing stuff every single day. When I would work, this is when I had like a 9-to-5 job, I would work 9 to 5, and then from 5 to 8, I always had something going on almost every single night of the week. And then on the weekends, I'd go out and party or whatever with friends and stuff like that. So I knew that I had that capacity at one point. I know I don't have that capacity anymore.
Are you saying you're no longer 23?
I'm no.
And also, like, parenthood probably shifted that right?
completely.
Like that was a pretty quick switch of, how you're going to balance that priority and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've never been a morning person. I mean, if you'd seen me back in my 20s or even my 30s, I hated getting up in the morning. Now I rarely sleep past 6:30. I know that we've had that discussion. That's not really that early for some people, but for me, being that I really never really got up that early, now I can't sleep past 6:37 is pretty much the latest. Even when I'm like on vacation by myself in a hotel room, I'll still wake up. It's just like routine now.
It's just a reflex now. It's built in,
It's funny.
internalized. What about you?
Yeah,
KJ?
not to highlight like moderation versus like full on like passionately charging after something as like bad one way or the other. But it was one of those things where you're like, what I heard you say was like, yeah, I've just always been like pretty moderate. And so I just wonder again, thinking of like, if that's the thing that you are focusing on, if that's like a value that you hold, is that like, do you miss out on certain experiences maybe that could only be had if you were going full throttle or certain opportunities or, those kinds of things. And not that, I mean, yeah, essentially it's just FOMO because I think the choices that you make in life, just that makes you who you are, but yeah, it was just one of those things that I've been thinking about and it just struck me as so interesting. Like for me, I focused a lot on race and religion. And I think somewhere along the way, like I think I've quietly charged full steam into that, like not pulled a Patrick, if you will. And when I moved back to Texas, I was like, oh yeah, I think I've missed how to disagree well because I was finding so many people with whom I could agree. I was like actively focused on finding people who shared these new values that I had, or maybe these more well articulated values that I had, and those kinds, and I forgot like how to disagree. And it's funny, like now whenever I get news articles sent to me by anyone, I look at where it's coming from and immediately try to find the opposite of that to like figure out what the balance of the story is or something, I don't know, like I opened Apple News and heard about more shootings in America, but I think it was like like an NBC or a CBS headline. I don't know, kind of like left leaning. Right. So I was like, all right, well, let's go find some other news outlets and see like how other people cover this, like, and that's a new thing just because I was like, oh man, I don't know why. I mean, I have some thoughts, but I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm good at disagreeing well. I used to be better at giving people the time of day, I think, because I was more naive, but I appreciated being that generous with my time and my compassion. And I think I just don't talk to people as much. So I meet new people as much, but I'm like, oh man, I got to get back to that. So yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those things that I thought was really interesting. And in the context of the conversation, it was like this comedian is doing this podcast and the show and her stand up, and it's about religion. And it's, someone commented on one of our posts, like talking is healing and storytelling can be healing. And that's good. And that, rightly so. And laughter is good. And yet there's also maybe a time when you need to stop just laughing about it and maybe need to go back in and like parse through and dig through like, all right, this is actually what it's done to me, and kind of work through that on a more therapeutic level, and a more intentional level. And I think that's what I had been doing with religion for a long time. And now I don't know, maybe I'm not able to laugh at it, but just like coming back to what that is. It was just a good reminder for me to be mindful of where I am, be mindful of where I've been, thinking about where I want to continue to go in the future.
What things do you think our show has missed that we've been, or maybe not missed, but have been too focused on, which has caused us to miss things?
Not that I wouldn't say it's like too focused on necessarily. But I think that for as much as we may or may not be, quote unquote, lauded for being three dudes who talk about this, I definitely think, like, especially when we were talking about Joyride, as I listened back to that episode, I was like, man, we didn't talk about what it meant for this to be like a female comedy that looks fantastic. Just like driven by females, like in front of the camera, behind the camera, like none of that. None of that came up. It came up marginally for a second, and then we moved on because we were busy talking about like
the
what it means
part
from
of it.
from an adoption or Asian American, and I was just like, you know what I mean? And so that like I regularly think that we miss out on that, or there have been times in people's stories even where like a queer identity, whether gender or sexuality, like we essentially don't have time because we are focused on, I mean, not that this should surprise anyone. Like we were focused on things we wanted to be focused on, but I'm like, one of the things that as we continue to evolve, I want to be able to take more time. Yeah. But honestly, I just don't have I don't know that I'm good at asking those questions, you know, and that kind of thing. So yeah. And again, like if just being focused on Koreanness and the Korean side, specifically the international side, the transracial side of adoption, you know, as if like adoption isn't more complex than that. you know?
I struggle with the ability to talk about those things that I might not know about because I don't want to, you know, say something that, you know, granted, I mean, that was, we can talk about it in a way from our opinion, but I don't want to like talk about like you know, how it feels to be, you know, female role in a movie or something like that. Like those are the things that I guess for me that's hard sometimes to bring up a conversation about that. Because I try to talk about the things that I know about or the things that I want to talk about and learn about, I guess. But to your point earlier, the one way of doing that, I think, is by learning about those things by looking at both sides of the story. And I'm curious, maybe the fact that you look at the news articles of both sides now is part of your training from doing interviews and stuff and learning more about both sides of the story and not a monolith of not one side of a story of like, this is the narrative. You're looking at all sides of the narrative now, wanting to get the whole picture. Or have you always done that?
I don't think I've not always done that. And it's not out of like a storytelling perspective. It's not at all related to like the show. It's more just like I have people who are only going to look at especially like the right side of a story. And I might look at things more naturally at the left side of the story, but like I have to talk with people who are right leaning all the time and who genuinely think of themselves as good and don't have a problem with the way that, you know, like just whatever. And I don't want to be like, I don't want to spend my time rolling my eyes at them. I don't want to spend my time using language that's going to code me in a certain way if that's not the type of conversation that I'm trying to have, or you know what I mean? Like, so I just need to, I just realized, I guess I was like, you know what? I live in Texas and I know as much as I want to believe I can find like X or Y type of person, like I know that there's also A and B type of person. And I just got to be able to like have a normal ass conversation with them and not be internally eye rolly all the time, to be, you know, like all those kinds of things. And as much as it's, you know, I don't know. So it's more just like I need to be a better human in as much as it aligns with like, yeah, I'm okay with us disagreeing on this point. You know, other times I'm like, no, I'm happy to disagree with you and just be like, I don't want any more to do with it. But yeah.
Well, it's like we can always approach anybody with empathy and, you know, not be immediately on guard, even though probably we already are. Just personally, you know, like we have these signals that say this person is this way, and it's hard for us to not be like, to put those bias and prejudice aside, especially in the moment, even though that's what we need to be training ourselves to be able to do that. And I think to go back to the show's point, to tie that to the show overall, something I've been talking about lately and what I've been trying to do, I've been asked the question, like, how do you how do you react to current events? And it's like, well, I want to be able to react from a place of knowledge. And what that means is I'm proactive in seeking out that knowledge. And so that means like whatever it's reading books, doing interviews or wherever that information is coming from, going out and trying to seek those other voices. And I think on the show, we can do a better job of being mindful in the moment of just asking those folks who carry those different identities to talk a little bit more, because at the end of the day, it's like we can tiptoe around it and we're trying to be respectful, obviously, but we can also be more forthright in the fact that we don't know and we want to learn. And that's like how we can do it, because this show also serves as a platform for other folks to be able to learn. And obviously we got to be able to, like KJ said, it's hard to ask the question sometimes, and maybe we don't know how to ask the question good, you know, in a way that is respectful and mindful of that person and their identities. But I think in real time we can do that, and that's okay to be able to want to ask the question, because we're trying to be proactive in that knowledge. And that means also when we have guests on, I mean, personally, I could be better about doing a little bit more of the reading or the heavy work the homework prior to that guest coming on. I think it's, especially when it's somebody who has done stuff in the past where there's like a body of work that I could like reference and be like, okay, I've done my homework on this person, like a Kim McKee or a Jaron Kim who has, you know, been working in this field forever. It's like, okay, let me read your book. Let me check out your articles. So I have a modicum of an idea of how to formulate a question, you know, and it's not like we're just going right off the form, but a lot of people only have the form. And so that's all we have to go on. So even just like spending a little bit more time sitting in that and trying to think about, okay, how can I formulate this question? Because at the end of the day, our conversations with guests are supernatural, like not supernatural like ghosts. Like they are
not metaphysical.
They are very natural.
Incredibly.
And so sometimes like in the flow of the conversation, like being proactive and knowing a little bit more about the guests per se, based on what the information they provide or what information is available, can allow us to then, you know, have a appropriate response for questions or whatever the case might be. So,
yeah. Well, and I think what you said too about like being able to essentially like put your walls down. I think that's the thing is like, I have been like since 2020, I just had my walls up. And I think I was so focused on like everything behind the walls is wrong. And I was like cleaning house. You know what I mean? And that I forgot that I put my walls up. So again, to the earlier point of like what you focus on determines what you miss. Like I missed that my walls were up, and I don't, that's not who I want to be. That's not ever who I've wanted to be. And for a long time, I was really good at that, because for a long time I was really secure in my identity, and then my identity just like got rocked. But now I'm pretty secure in it again.
Right. That's another thing too.
I have the privilege now of being able to like, all right, these walls are coming down. So I'm going to march around them 7 times and then shout real loud.
Yeah. I definitely feel defensive on certain topics now, more so, but at the same time, not on others. So because I think because of the knowledge that we have learned and experienced over the last few years, the people that we've talked to and just the things that we've learned has definitely changed my opinion on a lot of conversations with
country music.
Country music, yeah, right.
Well, that's the thing. It's easy to react from a place of emotion, you know, because we all feel that, and we can like be triggered instantly when we read a headline or hear something in a conversation. It's a little bit of something else to react from a place of that knowledge, because now it's like you don't necessarily have to take the emotion out of it, but you give the emotion context, like, and you're able to have a more nuanced conversation. Like when you're reacting to that current event, like when something terrible happens, it's like, well, I want to be able to speak from a place, not of authority maybe, but at least of a place of like, okay, I know a little bit about this topic that I can speak of, even if I don't necessarily inhabit that identity or whatever it might be. Right. So I think that's what I've been focused on a lot, is like trying to be more proactive in that knowledge and then seeking that knowledge so I can react in an appropriate way.
Nathan, I think that's also why I like reading things from lots of stories, or from lots of angles, is because like however I react to my phone doesn't care.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've had my quick reaction moment, and then I can like, whether it's like, oh my God, I didn't know that, and I feel bad about myself, and like I can take up space feeling bad about myself when it's just myself. Or I can take space being angry at like how an article is written when it's just an article. But if it's a person, hopefully I've already reacted to that quickly and in private, so that I can react slowly and gracefully in person, you know?
I'm still struggling with that, because I forget that I have 3 little ones running around sometimes, and I'll be on my phone and I'll like, oh crap, there's another shooting. And, you know, it's just like Allison's like, because, you know, we try not to talk about that in front of them. So, but it's sad that I have to even do that. So again, just another part of being in the world we're in right now. So,
well, speaking of reacting quickly or slowly, I wanted to kind of talk in a more imaginative scenario, I guess. Because so Sarah and I have been rewatching Fresh Off the Boat. Well, I've been rewatching. She's watching for the first time, right? And I don't know what stirred this up in me, but just them being a Chinese family and like being in America and whatever, I don't know, like there are regular story beats where the parents are like, we just want our kids to be this kind of way. And, you know, one will say to the other, like, well, this is like why we moved to America, to give them the opportunity that we didn't have, whatever, you know, blah, blah, blah. But oftentimes it's all around like, are they going to be essentially like Chinese enough? Are they going to enjoy that they're Chinese? Are they going to whatever? I think something that we've talked about is like recently talking about just like Korean traditions and how fun that is for us. But what if when we have kids / when your kids grow older, Nathan, they reject some part of the identities that we have been working on growing on ourselves because they're like, they're our kids, you know, they're just like, I don't know, my dad's super into Koreanness, so I don't like it because he's like always talking about it, or, you know, whatever, something like that. Like, what do you do with that? Or like specifically for Patrick and I, like our kids will be half white. What if they just choose to reject all of the Asianness in them, especially if they look super white passing? And you're like, what do you do with that? How do you,
So I actually have an answer for this because I feel like when you first asked this, when we were talking about this before we started recording, I wasn't sure how I would answer this question because I've been thinking about it a lot too. And it actually, now that I hear you talk about it that way, like it's the same advice I give to adoptive parents right now. It's that we have to be willing to give them, our kids, the opportunities to engage in the culture, regardless of whether they like it or not. Because when I was a kid and my parents took us to the one Korean convention thing, when we left there, I didn't like it. And so they were like, okay, why would we ever take him back to that or expose him or have him engage in Asian stuff? He clearly doesn't like it. And so we didn't have those opportunities. Those weren't there to be able to take part in. So obviously I continue to reject because I don't have any basis to like climb out of that rejection. And so like you have to be giving those opportunities to your kid, I think. And then 2, you also have to be willingly and actively engaging in it yourself. And I think for us, it's a little bit easier probably because we're doing it now. And like, we're like, you know, we're figuring this out and we're also not white. like we have like an easy, like a different tie into like engaging with culture and you know, a broader, more stable foundation of that culture, like an existent foundation, you know, so honestly, like I could do a lot better of incorporating more Korean cultural elements into my life. I feel like, to be honest, haven't done a good job of it to truly. And thinking about that a lot because of thinking about kids and all of this and, you know, thinking about our family growing. And it's like, okay, I need to be doing this because I can't tell an adoptive parent, like give them that advice and then do the exact opposite. And then end up in a situation like not dissimilar to my own growing up where my kid is now rejecting their identity and I don't have anything to give them or I'm not providing them the opportunity to like actually explore that if they so choose to do so. Because you never know. They could come home one day and be like, hey, I saw a really cool K-pop thing and now I'm in. Like, and it's like, oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, you know, like they're like, okay, I want to participate in the food thing that you do. I don't know. See, I'm terrible. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's my thought about that for sure.
I think that's great. I mean, honestly, the what you said about us learning about our culture to better understand it ourselves and to introduce it to our kids is key, I think. And also leading by example and not, you know, just, you know, going back to avoiding things or not talking about things. I think the information and education that we've had ourselves over the past few years, I think will be very helpful for our kids in the future. Because even if we're introducing it a little bit at a time, I mean, we're not going to go crazy and say, nope, you got to, you know, do this every day for the rest of your life kind of a thing. I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to just show them, you know, here's what we do, here's what I've done, here's what I've learned, and let them kind of make those decisions on their own. But honestly, you find something, I mean, this is about any parenting technique. When you find something that they like, you focus on that. You want them to enjoy what they're doing. You don't want to, you know, force it on them. You don't want to force them to play piano. You know, so
I'm just gonna play the Janchi Show on loop and just put it in the crib and be like, "You gonna learn now." and then we'll be good.
And then the first words will be Janchi
First
Heyo.
Janchi Heyo.
Janchi Heyo. The baby starts going bum 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 bum.
Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
I mean, little things like, for example, for me, providing a New Year's soup, is just something that I'm not forcing it on them. I'm just doing it. If they want some, they can have some. If not, great, but it's at least introducing it to them to make it a tradition, so something that they like and enjoy. And then if we need to explain it, which we do, we explain that. Allison explains part of her culture, so she always discusses some Japanese and Chinese history as well. I mean, we've done which is actually kind of an Asian thing. All Asia celebrates like a different type of Children's Day, but we'll do some of those festivities and stuff like that. Little things. Again, it's right. They're still young, but just introducing them to these little things, I think, is just the way that we're going about it. If they reject certain things down the road, then so be it. Those are their decisions. I'm not the one. I take less of a tiger dad, panda dad kind of technique. So I'm kind of more of just like okay, let's just let you do what you want to do.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it is like an eat your broccoli situation versus like, I don't know, I was walking when I was thinking about it, and I just remembered there's this couple that I know in Springfield. It's an interracial couple, and the wife is half Japanese. And she was like, I don't really think of myself as Asian. And the husband, who's a coworker of mine for a while, I just remember like looking back on some of our interactions, like now I'm like, how could you say some of those things knowing that your wife is Asian? And yet in my perspective, like for the most part, she had like kind of rejected her Asianness, her Japaneseness, maybe not her Japaneseness, but certainly her Asianness, which I think is an important distinction to make. But yeah, so I was just like, man, I would really kind of bum me out if we had a kid that rejected their Asianness and or Koreanness. And we're just like, no, I'm white, and they were super white passing, and they could get away with it. I mean, yeah, to your point, I think you can just like, no, we eat this soup every New Year's, and you're going to deal with it because this is what we do, kind of thing. Like when you make your own money, I guess you can go buy dinner for yourself. But so it was just like one of those things. I just needed to have that like quick reaction, so that over the course of a kid growing up, obviously it's not like a quick reaction kind of thing. But if I felt that, I was like, man, I don't want to react poorly. I don't want to cause them to have identity issues for how I think they should be necessarily. But yeah, I was just like, no, man, I guess that's a potential future that would be sad for me.
Well, and then I think tying it into that proactive piece of being like, I need to just know more mixed race people and understand like what that experience has been like from their perspective. And like, obviously my child's life is not going to be the same as theirs, but hopefully I can have, at least a better understanding of that experience. So I can, if I see something that's like something like that, like you said, be able to react appropriately and not from this place of like, oh shit, like I don't know what to do, because at the end of the day, they're living an experience I have no idea about. Because, well, I mean, as far as I know,
I mean, you've got some idea.
I mean, a little bit for sure, but it's still different. Like it's still different at the end of the day.
Yeah, they have a claim to whiteness that maybe we won't.
It's a little bit, it's
in
a
the
little
same
bit
way.
Yeah.
But it's not wholly dissimilar.
Yeah. And I also find it hard because of the way we were brought up. I also retract to certain things that are more whiteness related. Like, I want to do these things more so because it's ingrained in me still.
Sure.
And I sometimes fight trying to get out of that. I want to try to eat more noodles or try to eat, have more of that for not just myself, but for my kids' futures. That I'm not just like, hey, let's go over Mexican food. Or
I just imagine you yelling, "It's noodle time!
We're doing noodles all this month." Hilarious.
Naengmyeon November.
I like that.
I don't like that.
We could
I'm not big on
November.
the naengmyeon.
Yeah, that's all right.
I just bought a new Nongshim ramen actually.
Well, that sounds like we need
Now
to
we're
cut
talking
to the
about food. It's gonna start getting me
food
hungry.
section. So,
All right.
yeah. Well, thanks for this conversation and
Yeah, that was a great
helping
conversation.
me react well. Maybe
We're
good.
learning how to react appropriately.
talking how to good talk well.
Talking good talk well with the Janchi talkers. Right
Yeah.
after this.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. Time to eat a snack. It is a little different today, as we have mentioned in our previous episodes. We are now doing all Asian snacks. Well, not all Asian snacks, but we are broadening.
Pan-Asian.
Yes, we're broadening our snack selections to more
A greater Asian region.
Yes, and of course non-expired ones. So this is actually good until June. So don't you guys worry your little
2023.
2023. Thank you for double checking on that.
Just confirming.
2023. And it is stored at a cool and dry place. No, I don't know. But we are eating what I thought looked like little lotus flower cookies. But Daojang Boutique Food, I think, is the name of the company. And these are jujubee paste cookies. Well, these are the translation.
Interesting.
Yeah, jujubee. Haven't we had jujubees before? I feel like we
I don't
have.
think so.
I don't know. I don't know what a jujubee is.
A jujubee is a fruit
It definitely feels like an African food.
bean.
Does that exist in Asia?
thing. I looked it up once.
So yeah, this is a Daoshang-kun maybe cookie.
I see
And
that here, yeah.
I see maybe on pronunciation. It's Daoxiangcun. But I did a quick Googs, and the Googs told me that it's a like pastry for New Year's. So that's fun.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, it's not surprising because it kind of looks like a mooncake to me too.
I was gonna say mooncake too, and I'm like, is that an actual thing, or am I making that up?
No, that's definitely a thing. So jujubees I have had before. Now that I think about it, I've had these on ramen before, but they're like little tart berries.
Okay, these are berries, not chocolates.
Yes, I know it looks dark.
Whoa, it smells like boba.
Really?
Yeah, like it kind of smells like tapioca balls.
Yeah. So it looks like a flower, but the little dark spots I think are the jujubee paste, like a little. I don't know. I'm just gonna dive.
I'm just gonna eat the whole thing.
Gosh,
Oh,
I dropped.
Side note: it's weird that it was packaged and then there's like a little plastic tray for it.
I
but
like the
don't
little plastic
hate
tray.
it.
Look, you can eat over it so that all the crumbs fall into it.
Yeah.
all right. Shouldn't
Or
have
you
put the
can
whole
just
thing in
put
my
the whole
mouth.
thing in your
That
mouth
was a
like-
mistake.
Patrick did.
That was a mistake. This thing is chalky.
I don't know. I mean, I like the flavor.
Tastes like raisins.
Yeah, I was gonna say dates or raisins, kind of texture to it, and dried fruit. I mean, not too sweet. No, I'm really digging this little
Thick.
tray. I feel like very dainty with a little tray like this that I can eat over.
It's really difficult to eat without crumbing my pants.
I know I'm crumbing everywhere, even with the tray. But
I'm crumbing everywhere.
That's a shirt. Go put it on a shirt.
Fig bars. It reminds me also.
Oh
of
yeah,
a
yeah,
fig
yeah.
bar.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Only
yeah.
like a fig bar. It's like a
100%.
fig flower.
Okay. Okay.
Oh man,
I
it's like
find
stuck in my
ants in room.
teeth.
Yeah, it
All
was
over the
definitely.
Yeah, that took
would
me
be
like
hard to
5
eat in
bites.
one
I
go.
can't imagine you doing that in one.
I'm not gonna lie, tough.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a lot. Yeah, I thought it was good. So I thought it was going to be more like biscuity or pastry based on the sides, just based on how it looks. It was not. So that was disappointing.
It was not.
I think because you had said early on that it was more, you thought it was like a bean pasty type thing. I was like expecting that, and I don't like that flavor. So when it ended up being, when it ended up being more like date or raisiny, I was like, oh, okay, I can get behind this. Figgy actually is really the best description of it. I just felt like a pretty Fig Newton with a different kind of pastry, a more pale pastry on the outside, cake, bake thing. So overall, pretty balanced flavor. I would not recommend eating it in one bite, even if you can.
I can second that.
I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Ooh.
Pretty good. Pretty good. Not 4 territory. Like I wouldn't to be like ecstatic to eat it again, but I certainly wouldn't mind.
So if 3.5 is pretty good, what's 4? Very good?
No, 4 is like, oh yeah, I can get behind this.
What's 4.5?
4.5 is like, oh man, this is just like
stocked all the time.
Quite
this
good.
It's quite good. It's just missing that little.
Sure.
It's missing that je ne sais quoi. Take it.
And is 5 je ne sais quoi then, or is it
5
excellent?
is like 5 is excellent.
He's running out to go buy more.
Yeah.
I've never once seen him rate something at 5 and immediately run out and get more of it.
I don't know.
Because I'm a professional
I don't know what he has in his
podcaster.
pantry. He
That's
could
a
have
great
tons
point.
of snacks that we've had on the show in this pantry.
That's a great point.
You know?
I'm giving it a 3. I think for all those same reasons, except I think it was just good, not pretty good. I think it was just good. I wish that the jujubees were chocolates, and then I would have bumped it up some more. But I think that's just a personal preference of mine. And
What
not
kind of
necessarily
chocolates though? Like a hard chocolate, a soft chocolate, like
a soft chocolate, because the cake part of itself is so thick. Like it needed to have like something that just kind of melts. Probably make it easier to eat, to be honest. If it was a little bit more looser chocolate. I don't know what that means.
like a velvety chocolate.
You can't wish a jujubee cookie to be a chocolate cookie and make it something it's not. I mean, I bought it as a jujubee cookie to be fair.
You know what? I didn't think about that.
I bought plenty of chocolate things for you. Remember our snack last week? That was pretty tasty, right?
That was
Welcome
very, very
to Couples
tasty.
Therapy on the
if
Janchi
anyone
Show.
else or didn't see last week's episode, yes, go check that one out because that snack was tasty.
Go check that out on YouTube, where I know people are watching because I see that we have views on our YouTube videos, which is cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I am agreeing with KJ. 3.5 for me. It's not quite a 4 yet, but it does taste like a nice fig cookie to me. Balanced. It's not too sweet, not too figgy. Not too. It was a little crumbly, but again, I should actually.
You were crumbing all over.
Tray, so
I was
you were
crumbing
quote,
everywhere,
unquote.
but the little tray that it came in, I actually might even bump it up a little more because of the little tray that it came with.
3.75 because of the
I'm
tray.
gonna give it 3.75. You're right, because of the tray, and it was easy to open, and it looks pretty. So yeah, I really can't say anything bad. It's I will eat the other one that's sitting here.
I'm gonna eat it later. I'm not gonna eat it right now.
Oh, you know what though? As a New Year's cookie, would definitely prefer this over some of the more traditional Korean rice cakes.
Yeah,
I think
or
those
the-
Korean rice cakes are flavorless.
Sure.
AF.
Yeah.
I don't really like some of those moon cakes either. Like you said, some of those do have the red bean paste inside, and it's different. Not as good as this one was for sure. However,
different.
the moon cakes are sometimes bigger, and I don't think I could handle one of these bigger. I think the size of this is appropriate.
I think it's appropriate size as well. Agree.
Yeah, I don't know. My wife really loves those moon cakes, and I can't get behind it. So
Interesting. To
it's a
each their
personal
own.
thing. Yep.
Yeah.
To each their own. Well, we've done it again. Another week, another episode, 127. If you can freaking believe it.
Who's counting?
Who's counting? I am every single time.
Oh man,
And
wouldn't that mean that we're like halfway to another year?
we are. We are very close to mid-year. September. Well, no, like we've crossed the mid-year point because March is the midway point of September.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start talking about that live show.
We're going to have to talk about the live show. Folks, if you want to learn more or have questions about or just want to have general suggestions for our live show, you can reach out to us directly, janchishow@gmail.com. You can also leave us a message, 972-677-8867. Got the number right first time. You can also just contact us in our DMs at Janchi Show and all the social media platforms. Or if you're feeling really frisky, you can go onto your podcast player that allows us for reviews and leave your suggestions there. that would be great. Be fun to read that on air, and also
Frisk
get
away.
high five for the 5 stars that you're leaving us as well. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you have to leave 5 stars, otherwise it doesn't count. But you can say whatever you want in the review.
Right.
It does have to be 5 stars.
Yeah, you can leave us any reviews. Disparage the heck out of us. I don't care. Just please make it a 5-star review. Okay. Don't say anything about it.
Or give us 5 stars, but make it be like the rating to something else.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh,
Or make
actually,
really
I like
funny
that
reviews like on Amazon. You know, like the strawberry cutter.
Oh,
the
that's all
banana
AI.
cutter. Yeah. Oh, really? No.
That's all Chat
it is
GPT.
now.
That's all Chat GPT.
Yes. Where can I find you?
Well, before they do that, they can also support us on the show. If they go to janchishow.com/support, there are all the different ways you can do that, and also find other stuff on there. I think I'm not 100% sure what's on there. You can also go onto Facebook and join us in the after party, our Facebook group, the Janchi Show After Party, where there is a party always going on after hours. We're definitely there, all in attendance. We all have Facebook. It's fine. It's fun. It's fun.
Facebook is definitely not a dying platform. It's fine.
If you want to catch up with me, you can do that at Patrick in the World on all the internet.
You can find me at KJ Roelke online wherever I want to be found. Sorry,
And
Nathan.
I am N Nowak on Instagram. Nathan Nowak on Facebook. Nathan Nowak at my
I'm
house.
still there. I'm still on Facebook. All right. Well, to all of our listeners, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Until next time, Janchi. Ugh, got raisin mouth.